Hey there, startup founders and early employees. This is George Soto from Sales for Startups. I could have it all if only you were here. Hey, startup founders and early employees. This is George Soto with Sales for Startups. Hope all is well. Today I'm actually with Russ Thau. He's the Director of Sales at Intercom. Russ, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks, George.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today. I had mentioned earlier that I was at a venture capital growth dinner, and everyone kept talking about Intercom and how awesome it was. And so I started doing research on the company, and then of course I found you and really wanted to pick your brain on some of these topics. So I really appreciate it. You know, it would be awesome if you could kind of tell the audience a little bit about how you got into sales.
Yeah, no problem. So the name's Russ. I run sales at Intercom. And so I was the first sales hire at Intercom. We've been predominantly a self-service model, and we still are a self-service model. But now the sales team is working what you might call our higher value customers. And before Intercom, I've worked at a variety of companies. I've worked at companies that have raised $100 million and never sold anything. And I also had the good fortune of being one of the first members of the SMB team at SuccessFactors and watching that through way past the IPO, and just recently came from Box, where I was the first externally hired manager and helped them really scale over there. And so what got me into sales it's a good question, is what I really just enjoy about sales is the execution part of it. I mean, I love being on a team, but I love the execution part, and I love that it's just always changing. I almost see myself as like a psychiatrist, and that you get so many different types of customers, and you're listening to them, and the whole point of sales is listening to them to try and figure out their pains, but then to try and put them in the right solution, and then ultimately to try and maximize the amount of value. I say value where it's really, maximum amount of dollars that you can get from that. But my philosophy and what I really view sales as is a way to help people and not just a way to force money out of people.
That's awesome. It seems like you have just like a really solid and diverse set of experiences within sales. You know, Box is absolutely crushing it. I was actually chatting with Doug Landis recently, and I don't know if you know Andrew, who was also at Box for quite a while. I think he's in London now. But yeah, it's a great organization. What tips would you give an early stage startup when that's focused on, let's say, launching a B2B tech company? What tips would you give them in terms of things that they can do early on to kind of build the foundation for sales success?
Yeah, and what's been interesting, so I'll give two answers here, is I'll give you my current experience now, and what I've really enjoyed about Intercom is that we had like thousands of customers before hiring our first salesperson. And what that allowed me to do is just have instant inbound conversations. So we already had a customer base. We could start going through the data, and we started to know what type of companies we already work with. And my advice and what I did is that, as I've started sales groups and sales organizations, is just go. Is at the very beginning, speak to as many customers as possible. Don't think about it, but just go. And afterwards, start collecting all the data. You'll find trends just start to appear. But I find too many people think about it. I think the best approach is really to just get out there and just start talking. And what's been interesting for me here is that those conversations ranged from larger companies to smaller companies, and it's really been very unique just to have the strong enjoyment of the product. It's such a passionate customer base, so it makes it very easy for me to have conversations, and I think that works for us because at Intercom we do have relatively speaking, a lower price point. So that allows us to speak with smaller companies, and I'm talking to their founders, and they're all understand exactly what we're doing. Now, if I were to parallel that, is that when I started at SuccessFactors, it was very much more of a, hey, we need to just talk to as many people and figure out what we need to build. Now, the price points were much higher. And so we didn't want to invest a lot of resources building something that maybe somebody didn't want. So sales almost became a little bit more market research first to find the market fit before we really invested heavily on building for it. Now, obviously, SuccessFactors was acquired for $3.4 billion. That worked. And at Intercom, we're doing very well, and this is working in its own way. So I think both are successful, but I think, if I had to kind of summarize back there, in sales, just go. It's at the very beginning, don't think about it too much. Just talk to as many people that you possibly can.
Now, you talked about gathering data and kind of deriving insights from that data over time. What infrastructure do you set up for that? Do you set up Salesforce and start tracking like number of emails sent, and do you have any tools that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I actually just use my mind. I actually find that I sort of break my sales world into 3 to 4 things. Is that I'm focusing on deals, I'm focusing on process, I'm focusing on recruiting, then I'm focusing on employee development. Right now, Intercom's so, as far as sales goes, early, that all I'm focusing on is deals. So like the process, the infrastructure, what tools we use, that's actually coming up for me now. But for like the past year, I haven't really cared about it. All I've cared about, and we have notes scattered in notebooks and Google Docs and in Quip and like all sorts of tools all over the place. And I think that's the whole point, is that you don't want to fit your process. You don't want to fit to a tool. You don't want to think about what tool do I need. It was more, I just need to talk to customers. And let's just go talk to them. And I would use a spreadsheet to kind of organize myself. So I think now that I'm getting at a point where I have 3 salespeople, and then I have 2, what you historically would call like an SDR. And that now we're getting to the point where, yeah, we've implemented Salesforce. It's just kind of like the only tool out there. I would love to find something else. But it is what we've settled on. And now we're getting at more of the data in terms of pipeline tracking. And then I think activity tracking and things like that come way, way longer. Right now, don't worry about that. It's just purely, are we talking to the right people? Do we have the right message when we talk to them? And are our reps closing deals? And that's really it. So we're just really looking at dollars right now.
Awesome. What is Intercom in you talk about messaging, in your words, what would Intercom be, and how is it leveraged today?
Yeah. So Intercom at kind of a very high level is we're a communications platform. And what's unique about us is that we live inside your product. And I'll give you a personal example, is that when I joined Intercom, I wanted to talk to as many people as possible. So what I actually did is in Intercom, I set up a message to go out to people that after they sign up, that after a day, if they have not entered a credit card, meaning they're not paying us, they actually receive a auto message from me. And in that auto message, I'm saying, introducing myself and asking if they wouldn't mind talking with me. Historically, this is something I would have to email everybody, and I have to do manually, and I'd have to try and find who to talk with. The greatest part is that through Intercom, I was able to collect these users, and then my messages, which feel very personal, you can change your templates, but this one looks like it has my picture in it. It looks exactly like I just sent it to you, but they're timed, and I had these messages go out via email, but the best responses I got are that I could actually have these messages appear in the product. So when they're in Intercom, when they're thinking about Intercom, they got a very well-designed message from me in the product, and they would reply, and then I would reply back, and we'd schedule a time to talk. So that's just one use case of Intercom. But then we have our, if you think as you get more traction, you can set up these messages to help more convert them. So, hey, let's push them to take the next action in the product. Or, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. Let's try and retain you back to the product. So we do work with a lot of internet companies that have mobile or web applications to help with that. Is that as these messages go out, you can determine, do I want people to reply to it, or am I just sending them to promote the next action they should be taking in the product? And then at the end of the day, we use Intercom because I can see all my users. So I can go in and I can, historically I've worked at companies that have Salesforce, they have some internal database, they have some marketing tool over here, they have a support tool over here, and you don't have any clue who's actually talking with the customer or what the actual history of that conversation is. Whereas all we do is, oh, like George came to visit us, great, let me go look him up. I'll see what he's doing in the product, I see how long he's been there, I see how much he's paying, I see that he's talked with support, I see that he's talked with somebody, another salesperson. I have my full history, and we can pick up the conversation. Whereas in other tools and other environments, I would have no clue what you'd actually said to us, and I'd be scrambling, and then it wouldn't really look like we understand who you are. Whereas now it's just this more personal feeling when we actually interact.
That's really awesome. That sounds fantastic. I mean, I just, as you were talking, I kept thinking about all the sales specific, use cases there, and that's incredibly powerful, especially with all SaaS and software and mobile, of course. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I'll give you another aside. Is I actually came to Intercom because when I was at Box during our free trial process, I went, man, we're sending, you sit and you just wait to see somebody like upload files and invite a collaborator. And then you send out this email. Like you actually send out the email and you're waiting for them. And I saw my CEO, Owen, speak, and I saw the product and went, oh my gosh, this makes perfect sense. Got a demo it over at Box. It didn't totally work out, but I was like, I want to work there. I'm like, this product makes so much sense. This would like really streamline how you interact with people during trials and self-service or freemium approaches. That's ultimately why I came and worked here.
Nice. Now you say you have 3 people and 2 SDRs right now. Are you guys hiring? If someone wanted to get in contact with you, should they tweet at you? And is there a specific URL that they can go to for looking up new opportunities?
Yeah, we'll probably be hiring in January. I'll definitely be looking to bring on more SDRs, so people right out of college, maybe like 1 year experience, and then sales reps as well. Like the predominant sales reps we're bringing in right now have maybe 1 to 2 years experience. Maybe they haven't been closing, but they've been in that like lead gen role or development role, or maybe they have just about a year of closing. That's really what I'm looking for, is people that are on the upswing of their sales career. And you can just email me directly. It's Russ, R-U-S-S, at intercom.io. Then feel free, obviously, to check out our website, just www.intercom.io.
Awesome. Russ, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of the founders and early employees here looking at this interview are going to take that feedback and implement it. I love the just go talk to as many people as possible, just get it done. I totally get that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And if anybody else has questions, you can email me as well.
Cool. All right, right on. Well, have a great day.
Yeah, you as well.